Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ilze Burkovska Jakobsen's workshop, and we will speak about her film "My Favorite War." Ilze grew up in the Soviet Union, and she was an outstanding pioneer. And now she rethought her experience, and it's interesting to speak about this and also about the creating her first, I think, animation film. Ilze, hello, how are you?
Hello, hi. First, thank you to Linoleum Festival for inviting me. I'm very honored to participate in the festival, especially with this film, My Favorite War, which is an anti-war film, and I'm very proud that you are showing the film. So let me explain how something so terrible as war can be a subject for a film, like childhood memories, and how why did I choose to use the word favorite in this film. So here is a picture of, I just got it in front of me. I was growing up in the countryside of Latvia, 200 kilometers from the capital, and in the very Latvian area, I would say, there were very few Russians around me. So when I came to the bigger cities, like in regional capitals or even the capital of Republic Latvia, there were very many Russians around, and those cities felt very strange because there was a language which I didn't understand. So growing up, it was very clear that there are two different worlds where I live. This one, which is in a black and white photo by this water on my grandfather's farm with my little brother, which shows really happy childhood because I had a lot of space and a lot of freedom to do whatever I want. It felt something completely different when you came into the cities. Then it was gray, and then it was understandable, and the houses there were not very pretty. We love to say that Riga is a little Nordic Paris, but at that time Riga was very gray. Even the beautiful old Art Nouveau houses were like that. So while I was this happy child before I started at school, I actually was very occupied with the thought why the name of my country isn't on the globe. Because we had this cartoon globus at our home. And when I looked at all countries, geographical globus, it was only the big USSR. And there was no my country, my identity, Latvia on that. You could see the letters Riga, where Riga was, but all this big country just was one. And it means that I think I have grown up with this feeling that our name was taken away, our identity was taken away to the world to be known. And then I moved to Norway after school. My plan was just to be there at school just for 1 year first, and then it appeared that I studied there for 5 years. And then, of course, I fell in love and married my classmate, and we started our own company. We are two directors running our own company, making documentary films. So living abroad for 30 years has made, of course, special thoughts in my mind. The thing is that I still felt that my country, which I love very much, is still unknown, is still something people don't recognize. And I guess that is a very big motivation for me to make films about my country's history and about this one lucky story. And there is just one lucky story politically for me, which is we got out of the Soviet Union. That was what happened, and I think it's the kind of Hollywood style of story. We got out. We got the happy end of that brutal state. Many people argue with me. They say the 90s were awful and we made many mistakes and so on. But still, I think there is a very big value in that point that we got luckily out of this empire. So first, I will just tell you a bit more about Latvia's history, and then we will I will move into the film. As you said, I was a very good pioneer when I came to school because I wanted to be this good pupil and do things like they told me. There is, again, very strange feeling when you are a child, this happy child which you see in the picture. You sense that there is something the grown-ups want you to know, but in my family, they didn't say it in the clear words that there was this independent free country, Latvia, in the words that as a child can understand. I really, the line of time is something very difficult to comprehend while you're a child, because everything before you are born, everything before you sense yourself is old times. It doesn't matter if this is 1960 in my case, 1930, or Middle Ages. It's a long time ago. It's before me. I think you have to grow a bit up and start to understand the timeline of history, because before placing your country into some historical context. So I knew that there rapidly, gradually, I understood that there was this free country and that my grandparents had owned their own farms, and they were punished for that by the Soviets. And you start to sense gradually that there are things that you can say at home, and there are things you can say out public. At the public, and you just have to know by your intuition what to say and where and how, and be very careful because you watch the grown-ups how they are behaving. And I was this good pioneer. I was trying to please my mother and please kind of the expectations of me for my future career, which I wanted to be a journalist, to fit into all that, to some frame of the expected future. So now we can show the other photo, which I sent to you.
The second.
It is from 1987, and the date is the 23rd of August, and it's 48 years since the Molotov-Ribbentrop agreement was signed in 1939. And of course, I didn't know anything about this agreement, which was made between Nazi Germany and communistic Soviet Union, about those spheres of influence where they shared Eastern Europe between them, and made this secret extra protocol where they agreed that Baltic states will go to Soviet Union. And in 1987, there was this first public demonstration in Riga, protesting against Soviet occupation, marking the date, saying that actually we were a free country before the Soviet occupation. And as you see, of course, KGB knew that this demonstration, which was actually organized by a small group in which was only about 20 people, they knew about it, the KGB. So they were there and they were arresting people going there. And then there was they say, historians say, that in the capital there were around 10,000 people around Monument of Freedom in Riga, that it escalated. Like a demonstration where people started to shout words freedom and democracy for the very first time. And of course, I didn't know anything about this demonstration. I was in 87, actually 15 years old. And very strangely, at that date, 23rd of August, I was abroad. I was in the DDR as as part of this group of pupils who were sent as young communists to the camp in very special camp in DDR. And then I was at home, our Latvian group of pioneers, when we were sent home on the train from DDR, there were some of my fellow travelers who said that, do you know that there has been a demonstration in Riga? Do you know that it was being on the German television? And by German television, they meant Western Germany, so of course not the DDR, because they have gotten to know, we are those people in Germany, that there has been this demonstration in Riga. And by help of the Western media, people actually got to know in Latvia about this demonstration, because of course Soviet media didn't report about it. And the end of this meeting, of course people were talking, but it takes time to spread the news by the silent telegraph. So you see, there were very few brave people who came with the slogans and flowers to the Freedom Monument to make an action. But the Soviet Latvian media didn't report about this. It took some days, and they had to start to report on this, and they had to start to react, because there were questions and rumors around in the society. So that was the first kind of awakening that there is a movement where we are demanding our freedom. And if you go to the next photo again, from 1989, which was the photo. I have gotten it from Facebook from somebody. You see, 2 years later happens this demonstration where is full openness, where is that full conciliation around demand of freedom for our country and the united chain of people between Latvia, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And this demonstration is called Via Baltica. It's the Baltic Way, as we like to call it. At that time, they say it was the biggest peaceful demonstration in the world. To get 2 million people holding hands, I think it's a tremendous achievement, because it is a time before internet, and it's time before mobile phones, and it was organized by those democratic movements of people fronts in all those 3 countries. And in Latvia, as far as I know, they got only 15 minutes on the radio, just at the last moment, to get to inform people, where it was known that there were lacking some pieces in that chain. And they knew that if they will not succeed, that it will be taken as a very big success by the communists and Russia, that the chain was abrupt somewhere. But if they will succeed, then it will mean very much. And as a symbol, it still stands very strong for us in all those years. I have used footage of the demonstration in my film to show that it's a peaceful way. We didn't have weapons, and I think that we also understood at that time that if we would go for the weaponized some kind of civil war against Russia, we would suffered very much at that time by unexperienced behavior, because the Soviet army then was a very crucial force. Now, this demonstration showed just peaceful means and open hands, and that was like just expressing the people's will. But also, I wanted to show you how big is the difference in 2 years, how much it changed. And it was very important for Latvia that we had this memory from pre-war time, from pre-occupation time, with my grandparents and those people alive to tell about that there was those years of freedom and how they were. And then when the openness came and we got able to talk about it openly, it was the best years, I would say, in my life, in the sense of starting to taste something very important and honest and clean, getting to know how open people can be, and getting your fellow citizens into the process and watching how we are achieving something together. It was really a beautiful time, from, I would say, this late 1987, when we understood that there is some other truth, which was a new opening for me, until we get out of the Soviet Union in the proclamation in 1990. Let's say it's just 2.5 years, but each day was kind of some new achievement, because we tried new things and pushed and pushed and pushed borders. And I'm very often saying that I was really lucky to live in that period in history for Latvian country, because as a teenager, I didn't have to make any rebellion behavior against my mom or against my family, because I had all my rebellion behavior directed against the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union's institutions. So you had a real enemy where you could put your energy and fight will against. So that was those happy moments of 80s. And when I'm going back to the film, My Favorite War, how it started. So I have always had this urge and need to tell in the Western Europe, particularly in Norway, where I lived, that we have an interesting history, and you should learn something from this. And of course, there was a kind of worry in me about this worshipping of armies. I started the idea of the film that I thought, oh, we still need to tell about civilians. How does people suffer during the wars? Because while I was growing up, we were raised just in this belief that the army are the heroes, but I think we have too little focus on the lives and experiences of civilians. That is how it started, and I thought, okay, I will make those historical episodes in my film telling about my region, Western Latvia, since we had this crazy story of being surrounded until the very end of the world for the last 8 months of the World War II. And of course, I thought it as a link to my own upbringing, because there was this very impressive urban legend existing in Latvia, and which is all the very true, about the demolition of the graveyard of the German soldiers, which is in my film. So I thought that the war somehow, with its cruelty, was connected into the 80s, into my childhood, and I thought that I will put it all together in one film. So I have been making documentaries since the 1998, I would say. And we started our company in 2000, but I have worked on the historical documentaries all the time. And then in 2010, we started to make also a children's series, documentary series for a Norwegian broadcaster, telling about children who have diverse diagnoses. And it's for children, about children, with children, from the child's perspective. And in those films, when the protagonist tells about their diagnosis, we were using animation. Very short, very simple, very explaining animation. But though that was my experience with working with animation and drawings. So in 2008, I made a film about my mother. Again, it's a generation portrait, not only a portrait of her as a person. And I thought that now I have to challenge myself in something new. And I found one of the stories, which is in the film, in the old book, which I had in the school years. And I thought, okay, here is really about the suffering of civilians. So I have to make it in animation. And that was it. I didn't know how to do it, but I was just determined. I will make an animated film about this ending of World War II in my region, and putting a bit of my experiences during the school years in this film.
Documentary film, and actually you used a few high footage in your film and a few photos, and it's more about animation than about like some proofs of the past, proofs of the history.
Exactly. Answer is in your question. There are no archives of the things I wanted to show. There are no archives, not much about German army in the Western Latvia. There are no archives of those civilians. There are not archives of my Soviet childhood as I remember it. The archives of my Soviet childhood looks like the picture of propaganda, what they wanted to show, what they wanted to emphasize for the people at that time. And those archives of my pioneer years in the state media, the state photo archive of the film and sound, they don't show the fear. When I became a pioneer, and it was very important for me to include the episode of becoming a pioneer at school, because you are giving the solemn oath in front of your comrades. You have to solemnly swear all those words, big pressure on the small children. And what you are saying actually is this, that you, as a 10-year-old, are going to be prepared as a soldier. They are preparing you to be a fighter and to fight for some country which actually you just fear and don't understand. So there is no pictures of fear, stiffness, and misunderstanding which was going on in that. There is no pictures of that pressure which we felt. So that was the reason why I had to make animation, because I knew from the very beginning that, okay, there will be different episodes in animation. Maybe while writing the script, what I will choose to take in from my childhood and what I have to leave out. But the episode of becoming a pioneer and this tremendously pushy lines of entering the ranks of the pioneers of the communistic youth organization. The strange thing is, I don't know that well in English, but in Latvian, all of my friends, we still can say it by our heart if you wake up in the middle of the night. It's just experience for me and my friends. And we we want to forget that time, but I think it was traumatic for us to enter this organization. And
so is it correct to say that you want to show your experience, not only like a historic events?
yeah, that exactly. So there is something people call the emotional truth, and that emotional truth of our experience, and again, my experience is very similar to experiences of many of my generation's fellows in Latvia, in Baltics. So that was why I decided to make an animation to put the accents of the emotion on those places where I feel it was more important, rather than commenting archive. Like then it would be, oh, you see in this picture this, but what I felt was the opposite, and trying to explain what was the opposite, or getting in much more commenting archives. So there are, of course, also the genre reenactment, but I think that's a very difficult genre, because to make it nice cinematography in cinematography and fluent and believable, you need quite big resources to make it like believable. So I thought that animation could be much more true genre. And yes, I was very lucky that I have had seen Persepolis and Waltz with Bashir, but especially Persepolis was very, very big inspiration for me. I really felt like kicked into the idea of making animation, because I found the film very beautiful, and explaining it and connecting with it emotionally. And I'm really happy that those films existed when I started to talk about my favorite war, because when you are going to those pitches and meeting editors of TV stations, and you have to say that you want to make a documentary, but it's in animation, they are getting kind of fear. What are you making? Kind of Disney or what's cartoons, and that's all childish, and they are making very bad comments, actually, saying that. It's your character is cute but not wise, and all those things. So I was very happy that Persepolis and Waltz with Bashir existed as a reference, so to say where I want to go. So one of the very first things I did when I got the idea, I contacted a Norwegian artist, Sven Nyhus, because he's just fantastic talent, and I felt that to make this film international, since I wanted an international approach, I need a Norwegian artist who have kind of a sight from a bit abroad, a bit from the outside, but at the same time is very fragile and emotional. And I found Sven to be that person. He is both illustrator and writer, and he lives in Norway, not very far from where I live, so we are kind of in the same region. He's very, very busy, and he first said no to this film, because he said, "Oh, this is so big team. This is really important subject. I'm maybe too silly. I'm maybe too childish to go into that." And luckily for me, his wife, she's an author of books. She's a writer. His wife persuaded him to come in the team with our company and make drawings. And then I was really happy. when Sven said yes, because I think that in his drawings you have something childish and something scary, and that fitted very much the idea of my favorite war, because of course there is a distance of time and the protagonist is child, so you need something childish and not too glorified and not too straight and not to how to say, not too clean, but also so we can show the next sketches from Sven. Like here we were searching for the character of mother, and I don't have many pictures of my mother, so here Svein tried out styles and images using her photo. And then we have the next one. I think it's with the father. Yeah, that was a tough one because when you watch the film, so you will understand that I have very special relationship to my father. I really I miss him very much in my life right now, and it was a difficult character to find. So we had many tests, and actually that's the same also about music. When we started to make music pieces some years later with the composer, that was the same. The themes of war or mom or grandfather, they came very easily, and we had to work very much with the theme of my father because somehow it was difficult for me to get in this right explanation how I feel about father. So I'm happy for all those tests. You see, that's really funny. And now 10 years later, after those drawings were made, I'm feeling also very sorry that we couldn't test more of those characters. You have to make a decision and you have to adapt them to the technical solutions, and it ends how it ends. You can get all those fantastic blurry outlines and so on. So it's good to start at a very nice place with a lot of interesting suggestions, and then you move forwards towards what is possible. So in the next sketch, I guess there is Ilze's character. There she is more in the already pencil-like drawing, which was much more closer to what we got in animation. And the recurses or angles, I think is the right word in English. That was the thing we were trying to test out in those sketches. And if you go to the next sketch of Ilze, you can see also the body language where Svein was working very much like with this Ilze, where she tries to play war in her preschool age, which was also very difficult to adapt when we started to rig the characters and started to move them, how to get something from that again into the movement for characters. And the ribbon, actually, it's very common part of girl characters or girl appearance in the Soviet Union. It was the ribbons, but there were many girls who wear two ribbons, but I had so thin hair, I had only one. And it's like, it's a bit difficult to make a characterization of so flat character. And there is again the, unlike with documentary, you have what you have and you can change her so much. But at least I got a comforting comment that she looks a bit like a Mickey Mouse with those two big pieces of ribbon on her head. So that was a bit comforting, that some characterizations there could be. And then there is, of course, many people ask me why those eyes of the characters. And the simple answer is just that is how Svein Nyhus draws people. And
Vision.
I tested other eyes, like with the white places and pupils in the middle. And we thought that it looks again out of the characters of the swine. So I decided, let's challenge the spectator, let's challenge the audience and make those eyes in this way. The thing is, before we could start to challenge the audience and spectators, we had to challenge animators how to make emotions in such eyes. It's very difficult. But I'm really proud of the animators team, which was Triton Studio in Latvia. Very dedicated animators, and we fighted this together for 4 years when the production started. And we sold it with those eyes, and I am happy that in that way our film stands out by being true to the Sven's drawings.
How did you work with Sven? How did you set a task for him? For example, what you want, like in the end?
I was sending him photos of the main characters, but then the characters who were not the main characters, they were adapting again by the animation artists in studio in Riga. Like Sven didn't make all the partisans in the animation or all the people in the class. He had drawn the main characters and the main props, and it's like more like a concept of things, how he was giving the guidelines for the other animators. But in the very beginning, when we started to work on this, I was very impressed by Svein when he's 10 years older than me. So he said, he, as a Norwegian, he was familiar with all those Polish series I had watched on the TV in my childhood, because he was interested in that particular place in history, both by the Polish films. So he knew about both of them, the Четыре панцирные pies и Stavka Vyše Żyźnie, or there's Stavka Vyše Życia in Polish, I guess. Captain Kloss, we just call them Captain Kloss. And they are something very archaic and very strange, and nobody else in Norway knows them. But it happened that Sven had watched them on the YouTube previously, because he said, "Oh, they are so." He has felt into it, and he was also interested in the history of World War II. So there was this strange link about that. And then Svein, he was very interested also in the props. He loved very much to research on those looks of the Soviet things, how they looked in the daily life, for the details in those props to get them historically right. But then there are very big work in the backgrounds for the then again came in this documentary person in me, documentary director, that I wanted everything to be very true, like floors and ceilings and lamps and school books and school desks, and every detail in the switches of light in the rooms, classrooms or home, or every detail that was made by a background artist. And she also remembers the Soviet time. She's a bit older than me also, and it was very clear in her memory how to draw them. And it's so strange, because there are so many things you can't find anymore in the pictures. They're just gone. And yeah, the audience, especially in Latvia, has appreciated very much this truthfulness to the documentary details, because people have been writing that they feel that that's exactly my class where I was, and so and so, even though it was my class from my school, but they were built up very similarly, of course. And then I think about the props, we have one more drawing, I think, with those milk jars. And so this is also a bit from the Sven's sketches, how he was trying to find them the right mood for him. And as I said, he was more into props, but the whole kind of interiors, they were made by the background artist, Laima Puntula. She's very experienced background artist. So the road from the first sketches to what we get in the end, of course, is quite long, because of the rigging and adapting of moments to the animation. But I have also this. If you want, and you can find the channel of My Favorite War on YouTube. I don't put much new information there now, but there are kind of some videos of introduction. There are videos of the team, where I have told a bit about them. And actually, while making the film and starting to think about the promotion, we made some funny videos about this Soviet history, and published it in the social media channels. Before I had my own Instagram, it was on My Favorite Wars Instagram, those small videos in 1 minute about the things we thought, okay, what we could get. There are poetry days now in September. Okay, let's make what we have about poetry in our film. And then people said, you are making a propaganda film. And I said, yes, of course, it's a propaganda film for milk and flowers. So let's say what we have to say about Latvian traditions, how we use flowers in our culture, or how important milk is to keep us together, and so on. And so in that YouTube channel, there is also one 10-minute long video, which is more serious, and it's made after we finished the film, because then the film was accepted in the Annecy Film Festival in the Counterchamp category, and we made a bit longer showcase to illustrate the work on the film.
You used remarkable details in your film, for example, strawberry soap, like one of the symbol of the Soviet era and Soviet era lies. And it's interesting for me, how did you write, how did you create your structure of the film? Could you please tell me more about the writing process?
Yeah, this is a struggle from the beginning to the end. I had more war stories in the beginning when I got the idea, and the script was too long. And then I got the feedbacks all the time that not only that your story is too long, but we can't, while people were reading script, they can't engage with so many war stories. You have to put yourself more into that. And I struggled a lot with that because I understand, yes, that the personal is what connects us. And they, on the other side, said, yeah, but if this war story doesn't kind of give a mirroring experience in you, why should we watch all those war stories as you want us to do? So, and my problem was that I'm making a film which is autobiographical, and I'm saying, but I'm not the classical hero. There would be much more easier if it would be a fiction film, because then you could put some more drama into that life. But the life I had is quite common, and then you go into that message actually that doesn't matter how common is your life, you still can make a difference, and you still can push some steps forward in the big processes, even though you are a very, very common person like me. When I'm saying what I did, the biggest achievement in pushing forwards democracy was collecting those signatures. In the film, I'm showing one episode. Actually, it was many. In my school times, I was collecting signatures against a building of metro in Riga, because I believe that it will destroy the old town. And there was very many fights about the environment, actually, about the protection of rivers and in different part in Latvia, and about against the pollution and so. But of course, the main episode was which I'm showing in the film. So the struggle with the script was really the process, which didn't end until the very end of the film's making, because I got a very, very big help, and really how to say the real uplifting with my editor at the end of the film, which was not only the film editor but also a content editor, Rein Srinka. He is educated as a writer from Glasgow, and he was working very much on the structure and asking me questions all the time, how this relates to that and how to put all the film together. So we were working together like for 2 very intense years editing the film, and rewriting all the voiceovers. And of course, the thing was that we started with the episodes we knew will be in the animation, and then we kind of were pushed by the animators forwards what we can improve in the episodes which are not animated yet. So we were remaking animatic like until the very last weeks, or not the weeks, but the very last months, actually. I was struggling with the end. Like I knew that the structure with the end will be about the coming to the Baltic Sea and the relief, what the freedom means to, especially for us to go by the sea and be by the sea. But as a message, actually, I was very much into showing how big threat Russia can be in the world. So for a very long time, we used and we tried in different ways, different archives about Russian army and the role of Putin as a dictator. And then we kind of realized that okay, let's make this film watchable not only in the moment when it comes out. Let's make this film like it has to stand after 5 and 10 and more years. And then I decided to make all those and the archive footage. It wasn't that good. I didn't have that money to buy something very impressive. So, or maybe I'm not just that clever to use poor archives in the big words or the big manners, or maybe I can solve it. So I decided to make this scene with the river and dictators drowning in the river, because the river was as a symbol in the film also from the very beginning. I knew that my this family struggle of mother with the bureaucracy and my father protecting the family, about that there is a symbol of river in my film. So I thought, okay, I will keep to the river, and the river is the destiny where we're floating and going ahead. We are always going ahead. New people are coming, new generations are learning, we are taking from each other's experience. And I think that actually humankind has improved in those years, even though it feels that sometimes, and in some places, we are back to Middle Ages and loving to burn other people again on the fire, a kind of condemnation in social media and so on. But I think that in general, of course, it takes a long time because there are many greedy people around. But still, I believe that humanity is moving forwards. So I decided to make this episode with the river.
Do you have any new knowledges, any insights during the work on this film? Because it looks like, you're translating your experience for us. And it looks like you didn't do any archive work, like, you have memories and you want to share it with us.
No, I was an archive, and I was looking for many things as improvement in archives, to get it like in the balance between the animation and documentary. That was mainly what I found in Latvian archives, what I could use. But I have to say, I had also this idea of showing the similarity between the Russian army and German army, like in the end of the film. And then actually, like, just to get this marching photos of the Red Army, Latvian archives doesn't have it. So I got help and advices from the fantastic documentary maker Vitaly Mansky, who now lives in Riga, telling me where to find them in Russia. And of course, Russian prizes, they are not the Latvian prizes. And actually, to make ends in the matters of finances to meet at the end of the film, because of course you have spent all what you have in animation and then you want to get some more archive. I had to go for the crowdfunding at the very end of production, and that was quite demanding weeks of my life going public, because people are not used in Latvia to pay for something which they will get later. You're used to pay for things which you will get now. And I promised them film like after half a year, and it ended a year later. But still, we succeeded with that crowdfunding campaign, both in Norway and in Latvia. But in Norway, it was kind of a bit easier because their crowdfunding platform isn't made that you get what you have kind of gotten into your campaign, like, and they just keeping the percentage for them as a fee. But in Latvia, conditions were, if you don't get your target, what you have made as a purpose to make, then you will not get the money at all. So, so we were aiming high. We were aiming at 10,000 euros, almost. So yeah, that was quite big work before finishing.
How much did you collect via crowdfunding?
Yeah, we got that in Latvia,
Okay.
because we stood. It finished 1 hour before it was closing. The amount came in. Yeah, I was.
You're lucky.
I remember very much that day. It was 31st of October, 2019. I was in Norway, actually, in the meeting about my new season of the children's series I was making, because those children's series, I told you in the beginning, They have 4 seasons. They are very popular in Norway. The children, I'm really proud of those series because children have watched it and they know them. In Norway, there lives 5 million people, and the website has been screened with those series for 20 million times. So I'm really happy with those. So for the season 4 of those series, I had a meeting in the national broadcaster's office. And during my way home in the car, I stopped in the gasoline station and made videos for the platform in crowdfunding for my favorite war in Latvia, and asking people, we are so close, we're so close, please let us make at the end. And then I got home, and there is 1 hour difference between Norway and Latvia, and I was sitting in the floor and watching updates. And as I got to know, there was some exile Latvian in America who pushed in the last amount of money. Yeah.
Did you have a fear that you create a film, very cute film or very childish film that don't show the anxiety of USSR?
Yeah, there are many people who had said that this film is scary enough. This film, mainly because of the archives from the World War II, where there's shooting of people, this film gets quite high level of age for children if they want to watch it alone, because then it goes to, like in most countries, to age 12. And of course, there are so many things how you can do those differently. And I choose this theme of war to say how important it was for the Soviet Union to build an identity about the Soviet person around the war. They didn't have any other state religion which could unite people. It was only the World War II, because you could unite people around the idea that in that side we were the good ones. Since we didn't have any religion as in the terms of traditional religions, then they built up this cultus around World War II, where they thought that there is possible to make a stand and unite you all under this umbrella that we are the good ones. Because sometimes people said you could choose many different angles. You could go for the economy only, it would be very funny. You could make a funny comedy about how people are standing in the lines and then not getting things, repairing things, and making jokes about what you are not getting, and all those, like a bit I have in this strawberry soap sequence. But for me, it was important how wrong the upbringing from the ideological point of view in the Soviet Union was, telling already to small children that your value as a person is only as a value of the soldier. That was one of my ideas how to put it. And then, as you see in the film, I was a girl trying to make my mother feel happy, and there was no very much fun and not very much expressive laughs in my daily life. So you can't make a film like a person which you are not. And it wasn't that funny childhood. I can laugh about it now, but I had to use very long time to get to be used to idea that how it's possible to make a laughter of your past.
Thank you. I have a question from the viewers. Do you think that the crowdfunding platform in Ukraine will help national animation?
Oh, I really do. I really don't know, guys, what you're going through, how it feels, because I feel that you are backing up your country so strongly. The animation is the way to get out to the world. And if you have people who still have a possibility to put money in your project, I really hope that it is possible. I think if it's possible, then you should try to get out to the Europe and other countries and try not to go for the big amounts, but some small amounts. I think could be easy to get outside Ukraine too. If you have people who can still do it, because as far as I know, there is so many things you have to solve now, and there is always this question, bread versus culture. So I hope that it is possible, but I would say you know your market, you know your people, and you know your platforms. Like I told in my case in Latvia, where I had this demand: either you make it all, or you will not get what you have been put into from the persons. So it depends on the platforms. And I haven't tested the international platforms like Kickstarters or those others. I Googled them, but now it's 4 years ago. I don't remember what their demands are.
Okay, thank you. How many years did it take to make the film? What will be your next one?
Yes, I started in the script writing in 2011, actually. And then we used very long time for development because it took a long time to finance it. And the production started in 2016 and we finished it in 2020. Animation was done, actually, the autumn. Animation was done during 3 years, but then the sound editing took place in 2020.
Development part.
I was mainly backed by the Norwegian state institutions, the Norwegian National Film Center of Norway, and I'm very grateful for that. Latvian Film Center, National Film Center, also believed in the project, and they also were with my producer from the beginning. There are several foundations in Norway, also besides the National Film Center, which are my regional film center gave what they could. And then there is a foundation for support for freedom of speech, and sometimes they give funding for books or films if they feel that those projects are supporting ideas of propaganda for democracy. And last but not least, there is an art council in Norway, which gave me actually artist grant for 2 years, so I could work on this project also under development.
Thank you, Ilze, for your workshop. Actually, we are about to finish our conversation. Thank you again for your speech and for your experience, and also for your film. I really like it a lot, and I will show your film in Kharkiv, as we spoke before. And I kindly remind to our viewers that you can watch My Favorite War on Megago, a media service till September 11th for free. The link is in the chat, and also you can watch another elections that will take place tomorrow. So have a nice evening, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.